This is the Jasper County Public Housing Agency's Housing Choice Voucher Programs Briefing. The Housing Assistance Program's staff members are Stacy Bingham, Director of Housing and Development, Casey Van Story, Housing Supervisor and the FSS New Beginnings Coordinator, Christy Carter, the Housing Assistance Coordinator for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Crystal Cogdill, the Housing Assistance Coordinator for the Permanent Housing Programs, and Travis Knoll, the Housing Inspector. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, also referred to as HCV program, was established by Congress through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, commonly known as HUD. This program allows the voucher holder to find a home in a neighborhood of their choosing. Jasper County Public Housing Agency, also known as JCPHA, administers this program through Economic Security Corporation of Southwest Area, commonly known as ESC. The programs associated with the HCV program that JCPHA provides assistance through is the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the Family Self-Sufficiency New Beginnings Program, and the Mainstream Voucher Program. The Family Self-Sufficiency New Beginnings Program, also referred to as FSS, is a 5-year program that's guided towards employment opportunities and counseling to gain economic independence. Some of the FSS program's responsibilities are as follows. The Housing Assistance Coordinator and the participant meet monthly. The participant will be contacting the Housing Assistance Coordinator by either phone or email. During this time, you'll be working on setting employment, housing, and educational goals. The Housing Assistance Coordinator will be providing an annual escrow amounts to the participant. The HCV program topics that we'll be covering are family obligations, documentation that is required annually, leasing information, income limits, basic rules, terminations, moving with continued assistance, and porting out of JCPHA's area. The family must supply any information the agency determines is necessary, including the following items: evidence of citizenship for all members of the household and any new members that might be added in the future, evidence of eligible immigration status. It is your responsibility to supply all information requested by the agency for use in a regularly scheduled reexamination or an interim reexamination of the family income and composition. The family must provide requested information that includes any certification forms, release of information forms, checking account statements, and all other documents requested by the agency. Disclose and verify Social Security numbers. Sign all consent forms by all members of the household who are 18 years of age and older. The family must supply all information requested by the agency to verify that the family is living in the home or information related to a family member absent from the home. An example, a family member has moved out of the home. This documentation could include a copy of the lease showing their new address, a utility bill with their name and new address, or a letter from the U.S. Postal Service showing mail for that person is being forwarded from the old address to a new address. If it is a child, a statement from Social Services showing that their name has been removed from the food stamp case, or a letter from the school stating what their current address is. The family must promptly notify the agency in writing when the family or a family member is away from the home for more than 10 days. The note will need to contain the dates you will be out of your home, the reason for the absence, and a contact number that you can be reached at as well. The family must allow the agency to inspect the home at reasonable times and after reasonable notice. Our policy is a 24-hour notice which can be placed on your door. The family must notify the agency and the landlord in writing before moving out of the home or terminating a lease. Remember, if you want to move with assistance, look in the center section of your packet for the Green to Go sheet. You must contact your housing assistance coordinator and set up a moving meeting, and you must provide a 30 to 45-day notice to the landlord and a copy of that notice to the agency before you can move. The family must use the assisted home for residence by the family. This means these are the people that are listed on your annual application are the only ones that are allowed. You may not move people into the assisted home except on annual basis with approval. The exceptions are newborns, court-awarded custody, and state-appointed custody, and this must be your only residence. The family must promptly, within 10 days, notify the agency in writing of the birth, adoption, or court-awarded custody of a child. You'll need to provide documentation of citizenship, update your application, and sign other required documents. All new members of the household must be approved in writing by the current landlord and the agency, in advance to the child moving into the home. The family must request the agency's and landlord's written approval to add any other family member to your existing application and home. This must be completed in advance of the family member moving in. Paperwork must be completed and an appointment is required as well. The family must promptly within 10 days notify the agency in writing if a family member no longer lives in the home. An example, your spouse moves out. You will need to contact your housing assistance coordinator to set up an appointment to update your information. Plus, you will need to provide some additional documentation that was discussed earlier. The family must provide the agency within 10 days of your receipt of a written eviction notice or a lease violation notice by your landlord. This will give the agency an opportunity to review the eviction notice to determine if you're eligible for continued assistance or if you'll be terminated from the program. If it is a lease violation notice, we will contact you to discuss the issue and the steps that need to be taken not to put your assistance in jeopardy. The family must pay utility bills and supply appliances that the owner is not required to supply under the lease agreement. The utilities are required to be in either a member of the family's name or the landlord's name. Please notify your housing assistance coordinator if you're having trouble paying your utility bills. They can refer you to organizations that may be able to help you. The family must maintain all utilities for the home all year round. Example, in the summertime, you may not turn off your natural gas service because this would be a violation of your family obligations and would be a just cause for termination from the program. The family must supply any and all information requested by the agency to verify that the family is living in the home, cooperate with the agency in this area, and promptly, within 10 days, notify the agency if you're absent from your home. All information the family supplies to the agency must be true and complete. Please review the fraud handout in the briefing packet. Failure to provide income or household composition is a just cause for termination from the program. The family must not own or have interest in a home. An example of own is you are a co-owner of the home that you have selected. An example of interest is your parents own the home that you have selected. The family must not commit any serious or repeated violation of the lease agreement. Landlords will be providing the agency with this information in writing. This includes the family not paying their portion of the rent. This is a just cause to be terminated from the program. If you're having difficulties with the landlord that you cannot resolve after talking to them in person, you should contact your housing assistance coordinator. However, this does not preclude you from not paying your portion of the rent. The family must not commit fraud, bribery, or any other corrupt or criminal act in connection with the HCV program. An example, you ask the landlord to lower the rent so it meets the payment standard. Then you tell them that you will pay the difference. This is fraud. If the landlord would ask you to do this, this would be fraud as well, so you should report this immediately to the agency. The family must not participate in illegal drug or violent criminal activity or other criminal activity that threatens the health, safety, or rights of others, which include members of your neighborhood. Remember, a family member that is charged has just threatened your assistance, and your assistance could be terminated. The family must not sublease, let the home, assign the lease, or transfer the home. An example, you may not move out of the home and allow someone else to live there. This is a violation of Missouri landlord-tenant law as well. Please refer to the booklet in your briefing packet. The family must not receive a Housing Choice Voucher while receiving another housing subsidy for the same home or a different home under any other federal, state, or local housing assistance program. The family must not engage in abuse of alcohol in a way that threatens the health, safety, or rights to peaceful enjoyment of other residents and/or persons residing in the immediate vicinity of the premises. An example, too many loud parties that cause the neighbors to complain and/or law enforcement to become involved. This is a perception of your neighbors, not the family. The family must not damage the home other than damage from ordinary wear or tear, or permit a guest or guests to damage the home or premises. Reasonable tenant damage can be required to be paid to the landlord with written verification. Failure to pay these damages to the landlord can result in termination from the program. Please be responsible when you have guests over to your home, including late-night parties and loud music. The family must not use the Housing Choice Voucher Program assistance while residing in a home that is owned by a parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, sister, or brother of any member of the family, unless the agency has determined and has notified the owner and the family in writing of such determination that approving the rental of the home, notwithstanding such relationship, would provide a reasonable accommodation for a family member who is a person with a verifiable disability. The family is responsible for a housing quality standard deficiency that is caused by the family. Failure to correct any HQS inspection deficiency cited within 30 days will be just cause for termination. Signing the family obligations. Remember, all adult members of the household which are 18 years of age and older are required to sign this document, and all adult members of the household are responsible for all of these obligations. What to remember so far. 10 days to report anything that changes. Do not add or allow anyone to move into your household until you have written approval from the agency. No one is allowed to stay for more than 10 days. Do not move from your home until you have written approval from the agency, and if you have any questions, do not hesitate to call. It is the family's obligation to provide the agency and HUD with all requested information. If the family will not supply the requested information, the agency will exercise its discretionary obligation to terminate the family from the program. When can you add new members to your household? Only during your annual recertification. You'll need to provide copies of driver's license or government-issued picture IDs for anyone that is 18 or over, copies of birth certificates for anyone under the age of 18, copies of Social Security cards, current proof of income, including child support, Social Security, SSI, TANF, and wages, asset information, including checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, IRAs, 401ks, annuities, and life insurance policies. What type of home can you rent? You may lease a house, an apartment, or a mobile home. You will work directly with the landlord in paying your portion of the rent, which is required, along with maintenance and repairs and other conditions of your lease. While in this program, should a problem arise in the area of safety and health that cannot be worked out, please contact your housing assistance coordinator. What is my portion of the rent? The rent portion paid by the family is the difference between the housing agency's payment and the full contracted rent of the home, which is called the Total Tenant Payment, or TTP. The agency will pay their portion directly to the landlord. Who pays the security deposits? HCV participants are responsible for paying their own security deposits and utility deposits. Your housing assistance coordinator may be able to refer you to some places that might be able to assist you in this area. What are the HCV income guidelines? Program income eligibility guidelines are referred to as the maximum income, or 50% AMI. Please refer to the handout that's included in your briefing packet. Please remember, you may lease up in only Jasper, Newton, Barton, and McDonald counties outside the city limits of Joplin. You may not lease a home, an apartment, or mobile home inside the city limits of Joplin. You may lose your housing assistance. You must take all mailing seriously. Failure to pick up a certified letter could result in termination of your housing assistance. If you have a person living with you unreported or fail to report all household income, you're committing fraud, which is punishable by law and could result in termination from the program. These are part of your obligations that you'll be signing today. You must have written landlord permission and the agency's written approval before allowing anyone to move into your household. All newborns must be reported within 10 days. Effective June 1st, 2005, all HCV participants must pay a minimum of $50 towards their gross rent, which is defined as rent plus utility allowance calculated for the rental unit. Household changes. You must report changes in income or household composition within 10 days. If your income increases, you will have a 30-day grace period before it will affect your rent. We must have a hard copy documentation of any changes in income or household composition, which is your responsibility to provide to your housing assistance coordinator. When you submit a change in household income or composition, you will receive a payment addendum notice notifying you of the new rental amount. All changes must be reported by the 25th of the month in order to affect the following month's rent. You will receive a payment amendment notice in the mail from this office to reflect changes. That will come after the 25th of the month. If you do not receive one, you should contact your housing assistance coordinator. Some reasons for HCV terminations: failure to recertify annually, failure to pay your portion of the rent, eviction from your rental unit, disconnection of utilities for non-payment, subleasing or allowing others to live with you, unreported, will result in termination from the program. Repeated lease violations, criminal activity, illegal drug activity, or violent criminal activity will result in termination from the program. Criminal background checks are performed on all adults entering the program. Illegal drug activity and violent criminal activity within 5 years will disqualify you from participating in this program. Moving with continued assistance, please look for the green to go sheet in the center section of your packet. Participants who have resided at an address for 1 year while on the HCV program may move if the proper procedure is followed. You're going to call your housing assistance coordinator. You're going to have a meeting with your coordinator about the next steps. The participant must give the landlord a written 30-day notice of intent to move and a copy of this notice to your housing assistance coordinator. Notice to move should be given on the 1st of the month for the 1st of the following month. Now you may receive a new request for tenancy approval form and assign a new voucher to move. The new home must pass inspection before you can move into it. Do not move until we have notified you. A new 1-year lease must be signed along with a HAP contract must be completed. Moving into an unapproved home and not following the correct procedure will result in termination from your participation in the HCV program. Portability, porting out or leaving JCPHA's area. You must be a participant of the program for at least 12 months. The agency will review the receiving PHAs, which is where you're planning on moving to, payment standard, and the payment standard must not place an undue financial burden on the agency. Annual recertifications. Each year you'll be required to complete an annual review, which is referred to as the recertification process. This will include an annual housing inspection, submitting all household information, including household members' proof of wages, income, and asset documentation. One of the number one reasons people are terminated from the program is for failure to recertify, which means that the household usually did not provide the required documentation. An annual recertification is a requirement for this program. You must complete the packet that is mailed to you and provide all income documentation within the time frame stated on your letter. Now we'll be signing the forms that are required to be in your file. Acknowledgement. This document is confirming you attended a briefing and received an HCV Housing Briefing packet and was given the green to go moving with continued assistance sheet. Obligations of the family. Please read the entire document regarding the family's obligations and responsibilities. If you have questions, please ask. If you're ever terminated from the HCV program, it's going to be a failure in your family's obligations. Please sign and date this form. All adults in the household must sign this form. Lead-based paint information notification. Your briefing packet includes a lead-based paint booklet along with additional information in the center section about the dangers of lead. A home containing lead-based paint will not pass inspection for a household with a pregnant woman or children that are 6 and under. Our general rule is we cannot approve a home that was built prior to 1978 due to the dangers of lead-based paint. Please sign this document to verify you received the information booklet along with the dangers of lead-based paint. Family Self-Sufficiency FSS New Beginnings Program Interest Form and Pamphlet. This is a program designed to assist families in saving money through earned escrow. It is for existing HCV participants only. This program is designed for people going to school or having earned income. Violence Against Women's Act Notification Acknowledgement. What applicants, participants, owners, and landlords need to know. Your briefing packet includes the agency's emergency transfer policy along with HUD's notice and form to enact the emergency transfer. Please read. Please sign and date the acknowledgement page only. What to remember: if you are a victim of domestic violence and receiving assistance through the HCV program, the HCV voucher will stay with the victim, not the abuser. Please contact your housing assistance coordinator if you have any questions. What you should know about the EIV. EIV stands for Enterprise Income Verification System. It contains income information for participants in Section 8 housing programs. We can access your Social Security benefits with this program. We can also see income reported by employers. Remember, they are usually 1 to 2 quarters behind the current quarter. We can also access the new hires report showing when participants have started a new job. Debts owed to public housing agencies and terminations. This is part of the EIV system, and it will show if there is a debt owed to a prior housing agency. This debt must be paid before additional assistance can be granted. It will also show if there's a current repayment agreement with a prior agency, if there has been a default on a repayment agreement with a prior agency, if the participant was terminated for assistance for a negative reason with a prior housing agency. Online briefing acknowledgement. This document is confirming that you have watched the video online, that you have read and understood documents that were provided, that you have read and understood how to use the contents and materials contained in the HCV Briefing information packet that is online. Participants of the HCV program are required to pay 30% of their adjusted monthly income towards their gross rent. Gross rent is defined as rent plus a calculated utility allowance. Adjusted monthly income is calculated by taking the annual gross income minus deductions and dividing it by 12 months. Allowable deductions: children $480 each. Elderly or disabled, head of household or spouse $400. Some out-of-pocket medical expenses only for elderly or disabled households. These expenses must meet the IRS medical requirement and documentation. These deductions are calculated by taking the total expenses minus 3% of the gross income of the household, equaling the allowable deductions. Daycare costs in order to work or attend school, but the cost and hours cannot be over the amount of time that you work or attend school. All of these items are required to be documented in the household's file to be eligible to receive these allowable deductions. Participants' contribution. It is calculated by taking the adjusted monthly income times 30%. Example number 1, a household income of $11,800 annually. From the following sources: a monthly amount of $833 equaling a $10,000 annual amount from wages, a monthly amount of $150 equaling an $1,800 amount annually from child support. There is one child in the household equaling a $480 deduction. We would take the $11,800 annual amount minus the $480 child deduction equaling $11,320 adjusted annual income. We would take the $11,320 adjusted annual income divided by 12 equaling $943, which is the adjusted monthly income. We would take the $943 adjusted monthly income and multiply it by 30%, equaling $283, which is the TTP. That amount, which is $283, must go towards the gross rent. Example number 2, a household income of $7,236 annually from the following source: a monthly amount of $603 equaling the annual gross income of $7,236 from SSI. There's a $400 deduction for being disabled head of household. We would take the $7,236 annual amount, subtract the $400 disability deduction, equaling $6,836 annual adjusted gross income. We would take the $6,836 adjusted income divided by 12, equaling $570 adjusted monthly income. We would take that $570 multiplied by 30, equaling the $171 TTP. This $171 must go towards the gross rent. Please remember, gross rent equals rent, which is the requested rent for the rental unit, plus a utility allowance that must be calculated by your housing assistance coordinator using sheets based upon the energy used for the rental unit and the county that the rental unit is in. The payment standard is equal to or less than the gross rent. What is a utility allowance? Each rental home is assessed for the number of bedrooms and type of energy used. A utility allowance is calculated using predetermined rates for each type of energy, such as electric, natural gas, and propane, and the bedroom size. These rates are determined by Jasper County Public Housing Agency annually. The rent and the utility allowance must be equal to or less than the payment standard for the size of voucher you qualify for. These utility allowance sheets are broken down in your briefing packet based on the type of rental unit, such as a home or single-family detached, apartment duplex, and mobile homes. They are also further broken down for the county in which you're looking for. What is a payment standard? This is based on the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Program's review of rent surveys completed each year and is referred to as the Fair Market Rent, or FMR. This FMR is designed to provide safe and affordable housing to people with very low incomes by setting reasonable rents that can be charged by a landlord. The JCPHA then sets, based on the FMR, a payment standard, which is the maximum amount of rent that can be paid for a rental unit. You must keep in mind that gross rent for the HCV program includes rent plus a utility allowance chart that was discussed earlier, which must be equal to or below your payment standard. These are the current payment standards based on bedroom size in the counties for Jasper County Public Housing Agency. How do we determine the participant's portion of the rent? A family of 4 in the household qualifies for a 3-bedroom voucher. The household gross income is $12,000. A family finds a 3-bedroom total electric single-family detached home in Jasper County that rents for $825. The family is to pay for all the utilities the landlord will be supplying the range and the refrigerator. Please refer to the worksheet in your briefing packet that's titled Jasper County Single Family Utility Sheet. The utility allowance for Jasper County for a single family detached should look like this. The Request for Tenancy Approval Form, or RAFTA, was completed by the landlord, indicating that the participant was responsible for paying for all of the utilities along with what energy source was needed for those utilities. We used the single-family detached Jasper County utility allowance sheet to find out the following information. Heating, which is electric, is $55. Cooking, which is electric, is $12. Water heating, which is electric, is $24. Other electric, which is the lights and outlets, is $34. Air conditioning, $16. Water, $17. Sewer, $13. Trash, $6. There is no allowance for the range or refrigerator because it is being provided by the landlord. All of these expenses added together is a total utility allowance of $177. Let's calculate this example. Jasper County's payment standard for a 3-bedroom unit is $957. Remember, the $957 is the maximum amount that can be paid for rent plus utility allowance that we calculated. The proposed rent for this unit was $850. The utility allowance that was calculated for this unit was $177, which means the gross rent is $1,027, which is over the payment standard of $957 by $70. The tenant would either have to ask the landlord if they're willing to lower the rent, or they would have to find another unit. This unit being over the payment standard by $70 would not be able to be approved by the Housing Assistance Coordinator. Either the Housing Assistance Coordinator or the participant could ask the landlord to lower the rent $70, or again, the participant would have to find another rental unit. Another example using the same family, same landlord, different rental home for $700, same utility allowance of $177, so you'd have the rent of $700 plus the $177 utility allowance equaling the gross rent of $877. Remember, the payment standard for Jasper County for a 3-bedroom is $957. So if you take the $957, subtract the $877, you find out that the rental unit is $80 under the payment standard, which means it fits within the payment standard and the family could lease the unit. So how much does the participant pay? Remember, our family that found the 3-bedroom home for $700, their yearly gross income was $12,000. They had a dependent deduction of $960 because there was 2 children, and a disability deduction of $400. Let's do the math. 12,000 yearly annual income minus 960 dependent deduction minus 400 disability deduction equals 10,640 adjusted annual income divided by 12 equals 887 monthly adjusted income multiplied by 30% equals 266 TTP, which must go towards the gross rent. We then take the $877 gross rent minus the $266 TTP, equaling $611 housing assistance payment. This means $611 is paid by the agency to the landlord. We then take the $700 total contracted rent minus the $611 housing assistance payment, equaling $89. This means the participant's portion of the rent is $89 along with paying for all of the utilities. Do not get discouraged. Sometimes it takes a few tries to find a rental home that will fit into your payment standard. Keep looking. Check the newspapers, realtor's office, billboards, for rent signs. Check with church family members. Check online. You have initially 60 days for your voucher. You can request up to 2 extensions. They each have to be requested separately, and each extension is only good for 30 days. No voucher can be out for more than 120 days total. Request for Tenancy Approval Form, or RAFTA. This is a very important form. It must be completed by your landlord and signed by both parties, which is you and the landlord, and returned to your housing assistance coordinator. Nothing happens until this is received by your coordinator. Do not give this to any landlord until you have decided that this is the home that you want to be living in for the next year. Upon receipt of the RAFTA, your housing assistance coordinator will determine if the home meets the payment standard for the program. We'll review the home for rent reasonableness. If your home does not meet the rent reasonableness criteria, your prospective landlord will be contacted to see if they will lower the rent. If the landlord will not lower the rent, then we will contact you and you will need to begin looking again. Once the home meets the payment standard and the rent reasonableness, then the housing quality inspection is scheduled. When the home passes inspection, you may move in. The Housing Quality Inspection, or HQS inspection, verifies that the home is safe, decent, and sanitary. Do not move into a unit until the home passes inspection. Assistance cannot begin until the home passes inspection. Please remember, the request for tenancy approval must be completed and signed by both parties. Your initial lease must be 12 months. Assistance cannot begin until your home has passed inspection. You may lease up in Barton, Jasper, Newton, and McDonald counties outside the city limits of Joplin, and you must report any changes in writing to our office within 10 days. Think about this. Is fraud worth it? If you commit fraud to obtain assisted housing from HUD-funded housing assistance program, you could be evicted from your apartment or home, required to repay all overpaid rental assistance you received, fined up to $10,000, imprisoned for up to 5 years, prohibited from receiving future assistance, and subject to state and local penalties as well. You are committing fraud if you sign a form knowing that you are providing false or misleading information. The information you provide on your housing assistance application and recertification forms will be checked. The local housing agency, HUD, or the Office of Inspector General will check the income and asset information you provide with other federal, state, or local governments and with private agencies using the EIV system we discussed earlier. Certifying false information is fraud. All sources of income and changes in income you or any member of your household receives, such as wages, welfare assistance payments, Social Security and veteran benefits, pensions, and retirements, must be reported within 10 days. Any money you receive on behalf of your children, such as child support, TANF payments, Social Security for children, any increase in income, such as a wage from a new job or a pay raise, All assets such as bank accounts, annuities, saving bonds, certificate of deposits, stock, real estates that are owned by you or any member of your household must be reported. All businesses or assets, including your home, that you have sold in the last 2 years for less than full value, the names of all adults, children's relatives, and non-relatives who are living with you and make up your household. All income from assets such as interest from savings and checking accounts and stock dividends must be reported. If you do not understand something on the application or recertification forms, do not hesitate to call and ask your housing assistance coordinator. It is better to be safe than sorry. Who is my caseworker? For HCV participants, that is Christy Carter, and you can reach her at 417-627-2010 or email at ccarter@escswa.org. For FSS participants, that would be Casey Van Story, and you can reach her at 417-627-2052 or email at cvanstory@escswa.org. For mainstream participants, that would be Crystal Cogdill. You can reach her at 417-627-2042 or by email at cogdill@escswa.org. Our fax number is 417-781-1234. But please always put a fax cover sheet on it addressing it to your housing assistance coordinator so we can make sure that they receive them. If you have any questions, you can always call the main number, which is 417-781-0352, and ask for the Housing Assistance Program. Thank you for your time and attention.